I've spent the last 6 years using my background in science and learning from all the brilliant experiences I've had with my students. And now I've left the old style of teaching and taken the plunge to create new ways to grow myself for my students. The real question is, how will I help other teachers ditch the old mindset without rules or laws completely from scratch? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share real tested classroom strategies to grow my abilities and strengths using only today's best practices. My name is Juan Campos, and welcome to Seal It With a Smile, Self-Driven Radio. Hey everybody, and welcome to Self-Driven Radio. My name is Juan Campos. Thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, or whether you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're checking us out. Thank you so much for joining me. Alaina Freeman. Alaina Freeman is my interview guest this week. She is an amazing teacher. She's an amazing creator and a performer and a writer. And she has a one-act play that's going to debut in New York City, October 9th. And it's all about her teaching experiences in New York City, the MisEducation of Ms. Freeman. Not only that, but she's a Fulbright scholar, and we talk about all those experiences, not only her in the classroom, but what it meant to be a Fulbright scholar, the trip she went to, the fear that she saw and she recognizes in education, how we can make every child succeed, the absolute value of being yourself 24/7 in the classroom, and your legacy as a teacher. I mean, there's just so many things we unpacked during this conversation. I can't wait for you to check it out. So watch, listen, enjoy this amazing episode, and I'll catch you at the end.
Solo festival because a teacher that had helped me write the play performed in the festival.
Right.
And it got accepted. So yes, I'm going to perform it again. Running from September through November on 42nd Street at Theater Row.
That's crazy. That is right? Amazing. I mean, you're actually playing in the city. That's so huge. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
so a little background about me. I used to live on 116th Street between 1st and 2nd Ave.
Okay.
So I'm I'm not a New Yorker by any means. Like, no, I would never say that because I lived there. I've lived there, off and on for a few years. But I miss the energy of the city. You know what I mean? I miss the energy. I miss the excitement. I miss kind of like maybe not knowing if you're going to get mugged when you walk down the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The element of surprise.
The element of surprise. But to me, it's so fascinating because it's like you took that and you kind of like ran with it, right? I mean, you just kind of took that, like all that anxiety and all that kind of nervousness, and you kind of like, I don't know. I feel like you every moment in your life, you just take everything that's around you and you like use it for good. Like you're a woman, you know what I mean?
Right. Thank you. That's actually a compliment. I honestly never looked at it like that, but now that you say that, thanks. Yeah.
Well, I've been watching you. I've been watching you for a while, and it just seems that way. Like you are just you don't pretend. Okay, I'm gonna mess up your name.
Alaina. It's
Alaina.
Yeah,
okay.
Alaina.
You're just Alaina. Like you're not trying to be anybody else. You're just Alaina 24/7, and it's like you either like me or you don't like me. But I feel as though when it comes to kids, they need that, right?
Right. Absolutely. Honestly, I may have gotten a little bit of my personality from watching them.
Really?
I swear, I taught special ed for a couple of years. And everybody used to say, what is it so hard? Is there a big difference in teaching special ed? And then for one time, they used to, make me tired. I used to come home exhausted because they required a lot of energy. But the one thing about them is that they were true to themselves every minute. So while I was their teacher, it's not that I was doing something magically that was helping them, become these people who didn't have these special needs anymore. I had to adjust to them. So it's almost like the world now, they understood so early that the world would adjust to them. So I used to watch them and I'm like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that everything a part of my schedule, even the way I teach, I have to relearn how to teach them. And it was amazing to me. It was just like these group of people just understand that it's okay to just be. They come into the world being true to themselves, no matter the training, no matter like how many times you pull them out for different services, they are true to who they are. So I was just like, oh, I like this life. They're not upset about it. The only people getting upset with the adults, you know? These people, the kids are like lifting heaven. I'm like, oh wow. So yeah, just to be true to it, you know, and whatever comes that with that, you know, you accept it because you were really honest with the moment. So I really learned a lot from the children that I teach because I teach in a poorest section of the Bronx. So these are kids with little to nothing. The only thing they have is their thoughts, you know, what they can come up with, what they can create, and what they, you know, what you can kind of produce. So it was like, wow, these kids, every day they come up, regardless of their circumstances, and they just give it all. They just give it all up, you know?
That's
So I was like, oh, yeah,
that.
I'm going to take that from them.
Okay, but that's so cool. I mean, oh man, you just hit so many things for me. Honestly, you just hit like so many different things for me because, like, well, okay, so let's get a little bit as to who you are. Okay, so how you're a Fulbright scholar. What exactly does that mean? Like, what?
Okay, so honestly, I didn't know what it meant what the big deal was until one of my friends sat me down. I was like, you know what that is, right? It's actually a prestigious college, a prestigious scholarship. It's the most prestigious scholarship that is, it's geared to send people, like have inter-country exchange. So we were sent out of the country. It's a research-based program where you're sent to Guatemala, Cuba, different countries, depending on the need that you're researching, to
Right,
try to figure out what works in their community with what they're doing. And then your job is to come over here and implement it. So the people that have had it were like Bill Clinton,
right,
Desmond Tutu, the presidents, basically,
right,
Nobel Peace Prize winners. And what you do is you apply your research question, and then you basically get picked from the government, and it's an all expense paid trip for you to conduct research for a couple of months. So I stayed in Belize, and the research we did was the welfare of the women in Belize and how they kind of keep the country striving on the backs of the women. Like we noticed that everyone in a high position had a woman involved. So if there was a president, the vice president was a woman. You know, if you had the diplomat, his right hand person was a woman. Like it was almost
wow,
like they stuck the women in as the need because they knew that the woman could kind of get it done, you know?
right.
So the Fulbright, it actually wasn't for me. I guess it was meant for me, but it was from my aunt. It was sent to doctors in New York and other educators that are high in their career. So it was like for chairpersons of NYU. She then received the email for the invite to apply for the scholarship, but she had
Right.
recently had knee surgery. And she sent it to me and she said, oh, apply. And when I saw it, I was like, well, they're asking for doctors. You know, I'm not a doctor. She said, well, apply, answer the questions, and they're going to go based on that. And that's what happened. So I answered the questions. They liked the questions, and I got accepted. And so I got to go stay in Belize in 2014. It was
Wow.
wonderful.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say how crazy of an experience was that? I mean, just
It
being
was
in Belize.
awesome. It was awesome. It was the one rule was, you know, to as almost like the saying, as you do in Rome, you know, if you're in Rome, do as Romans will do.
Right,
So
right,
it was
right.
like that, having to understand their culture, their religious beliefs, how their land is sacred to them. It was wonderful. It was like living like them. Of course, we stayed in the hotels, but during the day,
Right, right,
during the
right.
day, you know, we were taking excursions, going to lectures, going to the land, going to schools. It was just about getting embedded in the country. And what we did was tour the entire island. So we went from the north to the south, or a matter of 4.5 months. And so what we did was we would stay like 3 and 4 days at particular locations and counties, and then just keep traveling. So we got to see the differences in like maybe Belize City from San Ignacia. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I actually had a meeting with one of the diplomats that were in Belize. She's a woman, and she was here in New York at the UN, and I met up with her last week to talk. But yeah, so the whole goal is to try to have the US and, you know, like share similarities because the Caribbean they have a way of working things, even their health wise. There were women who were in their 80s and 90s, and they look like they were in their 40s, and it was strictly because of their diet, you know?
Right.
So it was like, wow, we need to kind of get with this.
Yeah, yeah. We're a little behind.
We're a little behind in these countries that, you know, barely have buildings. but they're thriving. You know, as far as health was concerned, they really didn't have big hospitals. People weren't really getting sick. If they were getting sick, it was like for something detrimental, and then that would be it. But it wasn't like these illnesses, where the emergency room, you know, you have people in and out. It wasn't like that. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why is that? It was the way they treated their animals that they ate, the way they treat their land. The stray dogs still looked fat, like they were still fed. You know, it wasn't, it was like a we are one type of attitude of the island.
We're all in this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you got that, because I feel, you know, especially, you know, Bronx, you know, you got the Bronx, you got Brooklyn,
Right.
you got the city, and then in the city you got all these little other neighborhoods, and then in the city you got to look, you know, in the neighborhood you got these little corners, and so
Right.
I feel that, because there's a lot of times where, you know, we are segregated, we segregate ourselves too much, I think sometimes,
Yeah.
and so how did you go? Okay, so were you already teaching at this point? I mean,
At this point, I was already teaching. I was actually in a second grade inclusion class, which meant that there were two teachers. It was special ed. And because I had taught special ed the previous year, you know, once you are able to handle a certain population, it's almost like they give it to you every year without
yeah,
realizing it may not be you know. So what
yeah.
happened was is that this particular principal thought I should have 21 boys and 3 girls. So it was like that's the year I wrote the show. The year was
I
so,
bet. I bet you wrote the show that
it
year.
was incredible. Like what happened was is that 2 years before I taught that class, I was taking acting classes, just taking writing classes just for fun. When I had that class, I was teaching special ed, and it was like I still love the kids, and I just hated teaching at that year. It was like
Okay,
I didn't like it.
let me stop you for a second, because let's unpack that. Why
Mhm.
did you hate teaching, but you like, because I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. They hate the teaching part, but they love the kids. So why did you feel that way?
The teaching part didn't match my population. So the teaching part said things like, okay, according to this curriculum, these students should be doing X, Y, and Z, and this is what you need to teach. Some of the kids that I had couldn't really write their name. It didn't match the curriculum. So it was like, I still have to put these things in front of the children that I know they won't understand or get. And you want me to produce something that isn't real for the population that I'm in. So it was like the demands that they had and the lack of support. So like I said, I work in one of the poorest areas of the Bronx. A lot of people don't run to necessarily work there because of the element in the community. Although I haven't received any parts of their fears, it's just that the support staff doesn't exist. So if I have special education, I need support. I need that if a fight happens, someone can come and get them. If someone's having an emotional breakdown and they're under the table because someone is looking at them, someone needs to come in and be able to talk to them. I
Right.
cannot physically speak to them, teach them, nurture them, all in that one area when they were so needy. So that year I hated it. Like now I don't have that experience, although I'm in the same school, but I don't have that same demographic either. You know, so it's a little bit lighter. But if I have to teach a demographic that is struggling, not only in academics, but even at home in their personal life, some of the kids were coming in depressed. They didn't even know it. So they're
Right.
coming in with these behaviors, and I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I don't know how to get them out of it, but I actually have to get this job done. And you
Right.
actually have to pass this test. So that part I hated about it, but I still love the kids because, like I said, they didn't understand what was going on. They didn't know that I'm having meetings and this has to be done. They're showing up, and they are actually giving me back what I was giving them. So even though I had a difficult class, they were difficult with each other, but they loved me because they knew how I felt about them. So that's why I said I still like the kids because the kids still knew my heart, but the job in itself was tearing me up. It was like,
So, well, I'm sorry to keep cutting up, but you're just saying such good stuff. Like, because they said they knew your heart, but how did they know your heart? Like,
I
what?
have no idea. You know what? That's one. I have no idea. The other day, I asked someone like, how? Because now it's to the point. So now I'm in a different position in the same school. I teach theater, and now it's for the entire school.
And
I
this is
have
elementary, right? I mean, this is
elementary.
elementary? Okay, okay.
hmm I
Wow.
have a sign on my door where now the kids can't come to my room unless they have a pass because it would be a case where I may have 50 kids trying to see me while I have a class or, walking by, coming in my room. And I kept saying to someone, what makes them think I like them? Like, I want to eat lunch. I don't want to talk to kids. I wanted to, like, what? Why are they thinking, yeah, let's go to Miss Freeman on her lunch break and sit and talk to her? I have no idea. I honestly think kids, like, since they are only here, like, for so short, like, since they just got here, their souls are still fresh, so they go off of energy only. Even when I'm yelling and I'm saying the most horrific things to them, they still show up. I'm like, I just told you off yesterday. They're like, so what? You know, we know you love us. Like, so we're here. And that's why I love you.
Right. But how? Like, how?
I've never said to them, I love you. So I don't.
I love that. I love that because here's the thing. I feel that you tell them that you love them by the way you treat them.
Right.
And you tell them that you love them by the fact that your thoughts and your language and your actions line up.
Right.
So if you look at that kid and you say, you know what, I think you can do this. And you tell that kid, you know what, I think you can do this. And then you help them do it.
Right.
Boom, it's going to happen.
There it is.
And I feel that that's what you were doing. And I love that you said all that, because that goes back to, like, at the very beginning when we were talking about just you're being yourself.
Right.
You know, and your biggest issue isn't being yourself around the kids. The biggest issue is that you have this, like, oppressive demands from the adults saying you got to do X, Y, and Z, when you're here saying, but wait a minute, I'm going to teach them about themselves. I'm going to teach them how to be better people. They're behind. They need X, Y, and Z, but I need to take care of that first in order for me to, like, you know, get my check pretty much every week or every month.
You hit everything on the nose. Absolutely. Like, I started doing yoga heavily when I started having that class because I didn't want to take out any of my frustrations on them. I started doing things outside of work to get ready for work. And the one thing that I realized in researching yoga is that in India, the children go to school up until, like, maybe age 5, and they're not learning how to read or write. They're learning how to meditate. They're learning about their bodies, about themselves, about their mind. And then they sit them in the class, because then they understand that they're fidgeting, that we're not upset that you're fidgeting. It's just that you're so powerful that people are going to look at you while you're fidgeting. You know, you getting up is not really a distraction. It's just that you're so powerful that any other movement other than the teacher will cause people to look. They learn that so that they know their power and they can kind of navigate through that. So when I'm like, that has to happen here. And because it doesn't, that's when I started writing research papers to the principal. We need theater, because theater incorporates all of that. It incorporates the yoga. It incorporates the you thinking of yourself before you do an action, you interpreting feelings, you know, you actually paying attention to the behaviors that you think you're showing versus the ones you want to show. So once I started writing the paper, she was like, you know what, I agree. And then now we have the theater program there for them, because I'm telling you, it was like, no, why am I teaching them how to do this? They don't even understand that teachers are not even really yelling at them. You know, like, we are just really trying to get them to understand something. If they knew that, if they had the understanding, I think all behaviors would be a little bit different. They just don't know. Yeah.
Why don't they know though?
I think here as a culture, we teach kids how to be dumb. So you're told, kid, you know, oh, you're a child, stay in a child's place. You know, when they have questions that they may have that we feel like is not ready, where they're not ready to understand yet. But I feel like if the child is asking, there's some level of understanding if they can formulate that question. So I think that we kind of teach our kids to be simple-minded, even down to the cartoons. We show them the way they're taught to speak. And then there are certain kids that you can't do that with, because life has already taught them at that early age that it's serious. You know, I think they need to know from an early age, it is serious. Yes, we are forgiving as teachers and as a staff, but that is not the way of the world. You know, this is the way of the world, and maybe we can kind of see, you know, how things really happen, you know, versus I feel like we coddle them in a way that's too much. It's unrealistic. So by the time they're older, then we then say to them, oh, no, none of the stuff we said was true. Now you got to be like this. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you know, what's going on here? You know, like, it was a big deal as far as, like, the president, you know, like the president who's speaking now, which I have no opinion about. But, like, even the way he speaks, and then we go to school and we say, use your kind words. That'll get you far. It's like the things we say are not real. right? So we know that there are different things that'll get us far. Let's talk to the kids so that they can understand.
Oh man,
I
I
love
love
the
it.
questions you're asking me because I never really thought about it. Like even when you ask me, how do the kids know you love them? I literally just asked someone that the other day. Like, how do they know? I was a question I didn't answer, but now I have that in. Like as far as they're watching my actions.
And see, that's something that I came to the conclusion of because I've been beekeeping for 12 years. And when you learn about bees, you have to watch their behavior. And it's
Hmm.
kind of interesting because the bees themselves on an individual basis have individual roles. But you can also tell the health and the status of the entire like hive by the way the entire hive works.
Right,
So I basically trained or was trained or had enough experience to like look at the individual but then look at the group as a whole. And
right,
I just took that same principle and those same ideas and I just applied them in the classroom when I started. And
right,
I would ask them questions. I'd be like, well, why did this work one day when I did this, but then this other day I didn't do this? And they were weirded out by me because they're like, well, why are you talking to us?
right.
like,
Right,
why are you asking me these kinds of questions? Because like
right, right,
teachers don't talk to me. Like
right,
teachers yell at me.
right,
Teachers get mad at me.
right,
Teachers throw things at me. But
right,
teachers don't they don't ask me questions like that.
right.
And I'll never forget the first year because I teach high school kids, and I'll never forget the first year. One of my sophomores, it was a young lady, and she was like, you know what, sir, you need to yell at us more. And I was like, really? Why do I
Right.
need to yell at? I mean, say same thing. What do you mean? What do you mean I have to
Right.
yell at you more? She's like, yeah, you're not yelling at us enough. Like, this is why, you're having all the problems that you're having in class. And that got me because there were two things that was happening. Number one, I didn't think I was having a problem in class because I saw what you saw in the sense that I just saw a bunch of kids with a bunch of energy that had no outlet.
Right. Right.
And so for me, if that one kid has to like get up and walk around a little bit, I'm okay with that. If I have this other kid that has to make a phone call because his mom's in the hospital and she needs a ride out of the hospital, and then go do that. Like, there's always some sort of chaos happening in my classroom,
Right.
but I'm okay with it
Right.
because I'm okay with me.
Right. Right.
And I feel as though that's a lot of what you're basically saying. But see, the thing is, I don't think I don't know if we take the time to process what we're actually doing.
Right.
And I think that's one of the missing, one of, if not the many missing pieces in your work,
Right.
in your what you're doing in your outlet and what I'm doing, in the sense that I think we're all on the same page. But number one, we don't have enough community, and number two, we don't have a space where we can all like have this kind of conversation and me be able to validate what you're doing and you validate what I'm doing and
Right.
understand that we're on the same page,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
Because it's just we're just too caught up in just trying to like just life. We're just too
Yeah.
caught up in life,
Yeah. 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 What grade do you teach?
So I taught sophomores for 4 years. I taught chemistry for 4 years.
Oh,
And then,
chemistry. Check
yeah.
you out.
So, well, yeah, I did that. And then,
Nice. Nice.
and then these last 2 years, I've been teaching forensic science. So, because I'm an ex-forensic scientist. So actually, I was a
Oh,
drug.
I would love that. Like I love people that have the brain for that. Like, I started at school at first, when I first started school and I started taking science, I didn't like it because I thought it was so hard. But then once I got into it, I was like, oh my God, this would consume my life because it is so interesting. I could take my hat off to you. Forensic science,
Yeah, thank
that's
you, sir.
cool. That is cool.
Well, okay, so but here's the thing, though. All right,
Mhm.
there's a lot of fear in education.
Ah, I can't believe you're saying
But it's true. It's true. It's absolutely true. But I want to ask you, where does that fear come from?
oh wow. I there see where it originates. I'm not sure as far as like why or where it came about. I know that it's something that is so prevalent in there that it's almost like it's run off of fear. Schools are run off of fear. So the teacher is
Wow.
scared of the parents, the principal, administration, and the backlash. The principals don't want to hear from the community superintendent and those above him. Um, and the kids are scared to kind of, well, the kids are not really scared, but if they are scared, it's more so to be themselves, you know? I feel like the buildings run off of fear and, what else did I say the other day? It was run off of fear and mediocrity is rewarded in a sense
Wow.
that because it's a place like I'm only can speak from my experience where I am
Right.
because it's a place where it's high stress, you know, lack of supplies, and the job is really, 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 really intense. It becomes um, a place where if you show up and you really want to try to get something done, because it's going to require like 100 times the effort than it did before, people shun it. So I remember my first 3 years at the job, I came from working in Westchester and I purposely went to this area. And when I got there, I took everything that I learned in Westchester to this area and I had learned how to conduct bake sales through the year so that we can put a carnival in their backyard. Like for kids that don't get to go to carnivals, we would just have it in their field since there's a big, huge field. We can rent the equipment. Like these things are possible. We can put these things on. And the backlash that I got, you would think that people would say, yeah, let's support this. Let's do this. It wasn't. It was more like, well, no. How are we going to do this? And if you do it, you're going to do it by yourself. And you got to figure out who's going to help you. And I'm not making teachers that attitude. So fear and mediocrity, I feel like run it because um, it's almost the same reason why I taught. You know, like going into school, I thought that because I'm in a school environment or culture that things would be safe. You know, that it's safe, it's loving. So I feel like when you run a building and you inject fear in it, it's much easier to have control. So if I have you scared of me coming into your room and watching you teach, it's easier for me to control you from the teacher that you are. You know, like I think that if people then really actually knew their power, teachers included, that a lot of the stuff that they take seriously, they just wouldn't anymore. You know, it's like I remember one teacher being really worried and stressed out because they were going to get written up because they didn't have their lesson plan and it didn't match their lesson. And for me, I'm like, there's so much things bigger than that, than for her to be fearful of you guys coming in and her not being able to feed her family about a piece of paper that most likely has nothing to do with what she needs to teach right now. The lesson plan is like a blueprint, but it shouldn't be the one thing that you have to derive by.
Well, it's a
I'm not
plan,
sure.
right?
It's a
It's
plan,
a
you know?
plan.
You're right. So I don't know where fear came from, but I do think it's prevalent in school building. That is a great question. Where it originated from, I don't know. I think in order to run the school building, you have to have a little bit of fear. Because then who would listen? Who then has the last word? You know what I mean? Like, it's
So,
weird.
so then who, if you feel like the school should have a little bit of fear, who, I guess, who's making who afraid of who?
Oh, it's funny you say that. So naturally, the teachers are afraid of the kids, naturally,
But
because,
why is that natural? Why is that naturally? Like,
it's
why?
natural. It's not, it shouldn't be natural, but it is only because kids are very dangerous, right? So because they're impressionable, they can be told to say things or to make things up that didn't happen. If that's the case, they're believed. Like I had a coworker who was breaking up a fight between two students. He pulled one apart. He was arrested the next day because the one that he was breaking up and he got in between, the mom said she felt like the teacher didn't like him, so she thought the teacher was pushing him. So when I say they're afraid of the kids, they're more afraid of what the repercussions would be if the thought is that they dealt with them inappropriately or, even in this case, he thinks he's saving the students. And they're like, no, he needed to fight. The kid was picking on him every day and you pushing him. I kind of felt like it was because, he was, it becomes that. And no one wants that. They want to come do their job, share, and then go home. So I think naturally, Adults are afraid of the children for that reason. I think then the administration, because they're afraid of people that are, their deadlines that they have to keep up with the superintendent and the committee that they deal with, they then place the fear on the teachers also. So then they come in and their thing is like, well, we were told that you guys have to do X, Y, and Z, so do it. And if we notice that you're not doing X, Y, and Z, or if it doesn't look like that memo that we saw in our emails or the training that we went to at Central, then it's not right. Without understanding that, no, for every classroom, it'll be different. Like, I just had to give them a rubric for them to go by for them to judge theater because they were rating me on the same rubric that they judge a classroom teacher. And I'm like, but you can't. I don't teach kids how to write. I teach them how to do. So they don't have like a blueprint in front of them. They have to create these thoughts and do them on their own. So I think that I know the fear comes from administration. I think certain people come in a position of power, and while they're the principal and their job is to make sure that the school runs cohesively, sometimes if that's your only position of power in life, it becomes more than that to you. It becomes, oh no, I now have to tell this person where they're doing right and where they're doing wrong. Like, teaching is a lot of you're doing it right and you're doing it wrong. When the truth is that it's none of that. It's not about right or wrong. It's all a process. That kid that's getting it wrong now could be getting it right later, So why are we so etched in what's right and what's wrong in these moments? So I think it's all over the building. Over the building.
I love that you said that. Because, well, I mean, you pretty much hit a lot of, I think, super valid points, all of it. But I love how you said two things, especially that stuck out of my head. Number one, I teach kids how to do, and it's a process. Because just because they don't get it right today doesn't mean they're not going to get it right tomorrow.
Right.
Because for all you know, that might be the very first time they've ever been exposed to any of that.
Yes.
And so how is he or she gonna even understand what you're doing it?
Right.
But like you said, it's a process, and eventually you see, because when you say I teach kids how to do, that's implying that they can do.
Right.
You're not even questioning their ability.
No, it's a choice. It's either they are or they're not, or they have the tools and they're confident enough or ready to go for it. So some kids come in there, they're loved or not, because some of them are not loved and they still come in with the tools that they need. They are confident and they believe in themselves. And even when they mess up, they forgive themselves immediately. Highly intelligent on the emotional aspect. But then there are others that don't come in here with that. So they choose not to do. It's not that they can't. It's just that, I can't. I'm not doing that. They might laugh at me, or I might be wrong, or when I did math last year, I didn't do it right. So this year I can't. And it becomes that thinking. It's not that they can. It's more like a choice after a while. So yeah, I rather teach them the process of it all. Everything is not a final product. I remember I used to hang up things on my outside bulletin, and some of the kids would have mistakes. So I had a couple of special ed children that were never going to get it like the other kids, but they were going to get it better than they did before. And I would hang their work up, and then I would have meetings, and the principals would be telling me, oh, you shouldn't have that up. There were mistakes on it. I'm like, but that's his work. Oh, well, you shouldn't have it up in the hallway. We want the people that didn't make mistakes. I said, but it's unreal. So the kid in my class that made these mistakes knows he made improvement. He could never see that his stuff is worthy of being shown off. You're going to have to write me up, because that means I got to go in this room with this kid and kill his whole soul and have everybody's perfect work up there, perfect, just because they could follow everything I said a little better, and his not up there when his work was perfect for him. You know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for that, because guess what? That is his perfect, and to be honest with you, who gets to define what's perfect, right?
It changes every year. Curriculum changes every year.
It's true.
Changes every year. But we know for sure that this year that work is perfect. Guys, come on, stop. And as adults, I feel like we know better. So even if there's a system in place that is saying do it, once we're in the building, we are actually having to do it or not. You know what I mean? It's just like, we know a lot of this stuff is like not real to us. So why are we so we're all acting. right? So then we're all actors.
Wow.
And that's why I love theater, because it teaches you just that. Everyone is acting. You know, the principal doesn't really think these things work. He's acting like they work because he has to convince his staff that they do. He has to convince his staff of 40 why they should stay an hour and a half and fill out surveys about their community when changes haven't been done for the 5 years they've been filling them out. He has to convince them of that. He's a great actor. We're acting, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think the kids notice that? Do you think the kids are aware of that? Do you think that affects the kids in the building when they see a teacher, when they see an adult that on some level isn't being, like I said, yeah, congruency? They're not thinking and talking and doing exactly the way they're supposed to, or at
Yeah,
least in line.
I think they notice it, and I think it affects them different ways. Some of them have parents that are not in a line, so they understand that language, right? So like if I have a parent that maybe speaks nasty to me all the time, doesn't really mean it, but they're frustrated, so they're really intense. They're always yelling and they're aggravated. When people speak to me like that, I won't take it anyway, because that's a language I understand of love. It's so some of the kids in the area, unfortunately, where I work in, they're actually kind of used to people that aren't in alignment. You know, it's almost like they're used to the behavior. They know they want otherwise, and they know what the other thing feels like, and they know and they love it, but they can also understand the other thing. That's why children from those areas are so successful, like the Jay-Z's of the world, like the people that have had to, before they even get to school, navigate life, right? So they lived in these big project buildings where there are these 30 floors. There are like 12 apartments on each floor. Before you get to school, you saw 5 personalities before you got in the elevator. Now, once you got downstairs from the elevator, you saw 10. Then Mr. John was on the corner. And then the guy who sleeps that you know to step over and step around before so many ways to navigate and people to juggle that I'm not sure if it affects them in a bad way or if it's just another level of their understanding because of where they're from, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you 100%. I totally agree, because I feel as though, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but I feel as though the generation that you're teaching, the generation I'm teaching, has like the most opportunity for them to succeed. Because I feel like these kids are just exactly what you said. They're just so with it within themselves. They just they understand themselves on a level that I don't think has ever existed in humanity, to be honest with you.
Right.
And because they're so well, especially in this country, because number one, you're around. There are 80 different languages spoken at my high school. I can't even imagine what it's like over there. And so you have all, like you said, you're coming across 10 different personalities before you get to the bus stop. You got all these multiple personalities in the classroom. You have all these different voices, and then you're trying to, kind of fine tune your own voice. And then, I know maybe you're not, your kids are on social media, but then you have that mirror, right? So you have that mirror looking at you where you're trying to understand, okay, who am I and where do I fit in all this?
Right.
And these kids are completely with it. But then you step into a classroom when the teacher's like, sit down.
Exactly.
Did you finish the worksheet?
Right.
These are seeds that want to grow. These are seeds that want to grow, and we're not moving the dirt enough for them to plant, and we're not watering them, and we're not giving them sunlight. We're just pushing them into the ground and saying, you need to grow.
Yes.
Hurry up. Hurry up. You need to do this, especially before May, before the final testing of the year.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. They also, the fun part about teaching is, though, while I noticed that with all other jobs, like, because they don't get to hang around life, because I look at the children as like a lot of life. When I go with my friends that don't work with children, I'm not to say anything, but they're a little dull, right? So they're already caught up and like being this adult. They're already like having to be a certain way where they forgot the gift of like discovery. And so I think the benefit of still working with children is that we get to give that gift of discovery to them. So it constantly feeds us, and like we just feed off of each other. So they while they also take my energy, they give me life in a sense, like them is a big deal, So I love that about them because while I go to a concert, my reaction at a concert is totally different from my friend who may do real estate or work in an office. Totally different. You know? And I know it's only because I'm used to kid behavior, you know? And I love it. I love it.
And I totally agree with you because I mean, like I said, I mean, we're friends on social media, and I see
Right.
when when you're with your her name escapes me, but your rapper friend.
Yes, yes.
And you guys are on
yeah.
right, and you guys are on the stoop, recording something, you're just chilling, and or when you're at a dinner and the music plays and you're just with your friends and you're just dancing or whatever when you're on vacation. And you're right, because it's like these kids, when we give them that opportunity, like what you said, they give it back to you, and that just feeds your soul. There's just something so rewarding and so, like, I don't know, it's like air. It's like it gives you a breath of life that people that don't work with kids, they just don't get it. I love that you said that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's like feeding your soul. Like, I have this theory. Like, I used to tell the principal, he used to laugh at me because I would say, oh, well, I'm not here to do that job. I'm doing the soul work. And he would be like, oh, you're so deep or whatever. But I really meant it in the sense, like, if you think about it, children who are really like babies and older people, they kind of are either entering the world, they just entered the universe, so their souls are really fresh, their vision, their third eye, the way they're receptive, they're sensitive to stuff when they're older and then when they're babies. So if you think about it, when you're teaching the young, their souls are still fresh. They're still pure. So when you are in charge of that, or you like having constant exchange in that, I love it. It's a constant checker of my energy. I know that when I'm off, they're off, and they let me know that I'm off by giving me back immediately what I'm giving to them. So when I'm on, I know I'm on, and they let me know I'm on because they give it right back. That's how fresh their energy is. It's like, oh, you thinking that you're this perfect person coming in here balanced? You're not. This is what you look like. And they show me, So I'm like, oh, okay, let me switch that up. So it's like this soul type of thing where they see your soul and then they work with that, just the way that you are working with theirs. That's why I don't fight with kids for the grade for the most part. I fight with more how they feel. And then we'll do the grade stuff, because however you feel, you'll get that grade. I had that special ed class, like I said, was the baddest class. We had a spelling bee and a math bee. They were all special education, and my kids won each category out of classes that they had deemed as top classes where they had put their smartest kids in, and it wasn't because of academic. It was because of what the other stuff we were feeding them. Wow. So their special ed, they were already told that they weren't good enough. They have 2 teachers, They're not even allowed to play outside in the same playground with the other kids. They already was defeated. But the things that they were fed let them get up there as confident as they were and beat out each division. And that me and the teacher, the co-teacher that I had, we loved it. We sat back and we loved it because we knew what that meant. It didn't mean what they had been telling us. Oh, you got to do more of this with them. And more. No, we don't. They needed this other thing, soul thing.
Oh, yeah. I feel that 100%. 100%. You gotta give them that love. You gotta show them that confidence. You have to invest in them in a way that you wouldn't invest in another situation, because guess what? It is a soul thing. And I love that you said that, oh, you think you're coming here like Miss Slick, trying to be one thing, and they'll check you. They will check you. But see, the thing is, I feel as though, and if I'm wrong, tell me.
Okay.
But you understood that because you came in on trying to read them. Like, you didn't just come in and was like, okay, we're going to do this on the board. No. You came in and you were paying attention to them, and at least you respected them enough to understand what's going on. And then maybe in that one particular day when you were a little bit off, you came in and the vibe wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had to be like, okay, what's going on? But you weren't checking them. That was the feedback you were getting about yourself.
Me. How they say it starts with the head down. So even in the culture of the building, if you have a building that's full of chaos, you can say it's the teachers, but then you got to look at administration, the people that make the scheduling and that people that run it. So then even in the classroom, it's the head down. So if I'm in there, sometimes I can manage it to where, and it's never quiet. So when I'm saying manage it, I'm never meaning that they're quietly sitting with their hands folded. I
Right,
mean,
right, right.
okay, just so we're clear, okay? So if I now come into the room and it is not the manageable chaos where they're learning and they're fun, so they're excited, but if it's a case where the energy is really low, I know that I either have the power to be in it with them or come out of it. And usually if I'm in it with them, meaning like if I'm then frustrated about it or then I'm getting like this about it, it's usually me. It's usually because I'm now dealing with something else and I need them to hurry up and get right because I can't deal with that too. So then it allows me to then think like, okay, wait, because they don't know that you just got this letter in your mailbox or that the trip you paid for, the check balance, that they don't know. They
Right.
showed up at the door and they're thinking that you're happy to see them. And today you weren't. And they know it. And so
Right.
now because of that, it's not that they're mad at you. It's just that now they're going to let whatever they're thinking, they're going to let that dominate too. So if Johnny hit them in line, they're going to hold it because they're feeling like you are. They're feeling like they want to give up like you do. You want to say, forget about it, let me feel this. They're going to say, forget about it, let me feel it. It's like a constant fight to keep yourself out of it so that they can stay out of it. And that's why by the time I leave work, I'm like, woo, I either want to kickbox, run, swim, like it has to come out.
But that's great. But that's great because what would be the goal of doing that? Because I mean, obviously you do a lot of things. So what motivates you to do those things when you walk out of the door? Like why do you do that? Why do you invest in yourself like that?
Oh, because like I said, that 1 year that changed my life with the class that I described to you, it was like almost everything changed within that 1 year. I started investing in myself because then I started to feel like my health wasn't benefiting from me stressing about my job. So that I lost a tremendous amount of weight. My diet was off. My sleep patterns were off. I was going home at 4, young girl, going home at 4 in the afternoon, sleeping, done for the day. My friends are out at happy hours. They still can dance. And I'm like, I can't. I got to get ready for war tomorrow. You know, my health and relationships I felt started to waver because I was in an environment where it was high intense and I just had to get it right. I wouldn't give up. So even though it was something that, not to say that I was going to be defeated in, but what I did was perfect. But because I couldn't see it, because I needed it to look like this and needed it to look like that, it always just felt like something I was defeated in. And it didn't feel good. So that's when I started, writing and doing the things for myself so that I can have an understanding like, well, wait a minute, you are now in this environment. And although you're trying to implement change, right, there's so many other factors that contribute to the way the dynamic of my class was that I had no control over. But as a teacher, I realized I like to control things. And this was something that I couldn't. So then I started thinking, what can I control? I can control my reaction. I can control my health. I can control how I want to relate to other people while I'm stressed. How do I get help with that? And that was like through exercise. I'm very athletic, like my family, very athletic. So I knew through exercise that would help. And then yoga, meditation. I just started reading. I turned my TV off. I just literally this year got a television and got cable. Just this year, it had been off for 8 years. Because I didn't want to be fed with entertainment with something that would keep me okay. I wanted to then learn how to never feel like that again. I wouldn't care. You put me in World War III of a classroom. When I leave work, I need to be Alaina. It doesn't need to be that I left as, you know what I mean? Like,
That's why I'm clapping because because you're right. Because you're right. You have to be you 100%.
yeah.
You have to be you at work. You got to be you after work. You got to be you when you go to bed. You got to be you at a party. You got to be you at a Jay-Z concert. You got to be you 24/7 because the better you are you, the better they will be themselves.
Yeah. Like that's like this. Like if you're like, you love bees, taking care of bees, and you love science and you love these things, and then now you're not doing them. And then you're going to work and then you're frustrated. How are you then going to nurture your loving relationship that you wanted in your life? It's going to be very difficult because you're just trying to come over with this one thing that you're struggling with. So I was like, I don't want to ever feel like that because there was nothing wrong with my life. Nothing was happening to me. It was just this one frustration that I thought illuminated everything. And that's when I was like, no, I have to be able to discern what's really happening here. It's just this one thing. you know?
Yeah.
And then I started reading, and then the Belize trip came up. It was like, and the Belize trip came up at a perfect timing. It removed me from that position. So I then had to leave that position and then go away. And when I came back to the theater position. So it was like, you know, it was like I was like learning about myself. And then I started to learn the way I was reacting in that classroom also could have kept the things that were around me around me. I started to see those kids were creators. Those 21 boys and 3 girls, they were creators in my room. They would create a day, however they wanted the day to go. And then I said, I am one too. And I'm not going to create a day of feeling like this about this. I don't feel like this about it, you know? This is the way I'm going to feel about what I'm doing, so that while I'm doing it, I can do it well.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. And that way, when I go home and check out, I can then do that well. That I'm not feeling so defeated that the one thing in front of me that I'm like, oh, that can't be working too. No. Teaching is still a job. You know what I mean? So if they then said, oh, well, Alaina, you can't work in this building anymore, that would have been my job. But at that point, that was my life. Right? So I'm going to work every day. I'm not feeling well, or these things are happening. That becomes my life. So if my job is going to be my life, it has to be done in the way that feels good to me at night. So that's what invoked me changing and doing the things that I love and making sure to keep that same energy that I keep in the classroom.
Oh, I love
You know?
that. I love that. I love that so much. But let me ask you a question. Why do you feel, because I feel that that's why you're so successful in everything that you do, because you're true to yourself in every aspect, in every situation, with everybody. But why? But see, that's just it. We don't have a bunch of yous in the classroom. So
Right.
why don't we have enough teachers, enough people that can say that about themselves? Why do so many people do exactly what you did? They go home, they get in front of the couch, they say, "Don't talk to me," because the thing is, that's super popular on social media. You know, oh, it's Friday, I get to go under my covers and I get to, hibernate and
Yeah.
watch Netflix. Like that's like the thing. That's like it's almost like what you're saying, which works, is the total opposite of what everybody else thinks. So why is that? Why don't enough people do that?
I think only because as a culture, if you notice, like we do things in large numbers. So people don't really even, it was almost like, it's like even when I watch my students, they'll watch someone do something. And even with the children, like there could be that kid that's right, but if all 15 of them are saying something else, they'll go with all the 15. So if as a culture we're taught that watching cartoons on Saturday morning is cool, and having the latest sneaker or being able to do this on the app, if those things are what are enforced, then yeah, we want to be a part of it because we always want to be a part of something. But the truth of the matter is that actually disconnecting from those things makes you a greater part of the whole than if you're just a part of like the process of it all. So it's like even like when I was telling people, they were like, "Oh, you don't watch the news?" And I was like, "Well, no, why?" Because it's almost like there's certain news that I feel like doesn't pertain to me. It's not that I don't want to know or be current. It's just that there's a lot of news that would enrich me, and I don't get that fed on the television. So there are things that happen in my life daily that are inspiring, or that probably happen in people's lives that are miracles, but that's not something that we're taught. So I feel like it's almost like systematically we are taught fear, like as a whole. We're taught to kind of be zombies, to
Wow.
not feel through life anymore. So you're not encouraged to do something that is heartbreak. Like, honestly speaking, talking to people in crowds of people is a pet peeve. I don't like when things are about me. Going up to do my show is probably one of the most difficult things I've done. I can talk to kids all day, but the attention of adults can't do. And one of my friends, and she's an assistant principal, she knows that about me, so she'll make me get on the loudspeaker because she knows I don't like the mic. I'll have shows. I'll make other teachers talk. I don't want to stand on the stage. But the understanding that I have to constantly push myself to the edge or I'm dead is what keeps me doing it.
Love
Meaning, like, if I then settled into the old Alaina or the comfortable Alaina that doesn't do anything that rocks the boat of her being Alaina, like that doesn't run the risk of people saying, oh, you messed up, or oh, I didn't like that, or that wasn't good, then what am I then? If I now then am somebody who's come accustomed to like patterns versus the life, like that feeling of, oh, I can't wait to try to do that, or oh, did you ever try that before? Let me set my mind to that and do that. That type of feeling. So yeah, I feel like it has to be a place where people get to where they're like, and especially teachers, because they're teaching kids, where you don't get used to the monotony of it, because life is always changing. So it's like we get caught up in thinking it's supposed to be a certain way. So like even with people, they're like, oh, you're supposed to be married and have kids, live in a house, watch television, do like there's a way of living that we are taught. So yes, going home to distress and maybe going to the bar and taking a shot and watching television is what most people think is the thing to do, because most of them are doing it. There's no company when you're home reading a book to discover yourself. You can only do that alone. We want to go within company. We're so scared of going inside ourselves. It's like, what am I won't be accepted, or I might be weird. You can't go inside yourself with a gang of friends, but you can go get a shot and talk about how pissed you are with about 10 people. You know what I mean? Right. People will always want to discuss that. So we just go with it. It's not even that we know it works. Talk to anybody that you know and say to them, did it work? When you went home and did these things, did it? And they'll think it did, or they'll say, well, I felt better. No, what they did was they just did the same thing that they did yesterday. And then they have that feeling and they don't know why. It's because there was nothing that was really constructively done about it. Like changing your thoughts and all those things are a process. It's like a work. It's not that I can sit on the couch and just program it now that I saw it, it's going to make me. It's not that. It's like, it's a work, So we don't want to work. We want to work our job.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yes, but it's true. It's 100% true. And then we complain about the kids not working, but we don't want to work.
You don't want to work. That's the thing. So we come like, you're lazy or you don't want to finish this, but we don't want to either. I see the teachers in the meetings, the staff meetings, they're talking with their friends and doing all these things, but when the kids do it, they feel disrespected. That's how one day when I was observed, the principal said to me, there were 2 kids in the back talking. I said, but they were talking about what I was talking about. So I don't care. Oh, well, they should have been quiet. No, they shouldn't have. I said, you want to know why? I'm never quiet in your staff meetings, and I know everything you say. Someone talking actually in a meeting is them being present. You better watch the ones that are quiet. The ones that are quiet are daydreaming. Their brain gone. But to you, it looks like they're listening. The present ones are alive, speaking, causing distractions. Those people are telling me they are here right now, where their mind is, where they are right now. So you can't really base it off of what it should look like. You know what I mean? We don't want to do the work. And I look at the kids like I look at myself. Sometimes when I'm talking, I'm like, they don't want to hear this. They don't. I don't want to hear certain things. I don't. So I may change it up in that moment, Right. So it's almost like, it's the weirdest thing. It's like, why do I have these expectations of these kids to do all this work on themselves? And when I go home, I'm frustrated. I don't know how to come down. Like even when teachers say they lose it and they say the students made me lose it, they did or they didn't, right? They could have been as loud as they were and you could have sat quietly still or whatever, it's always a choice. So yeah, we want to work on papers and we want to prove to people that we're great and all these things, but the work is really always in ourselves. If something goes off, even with my friends, they don't like to call me for advice because they'll tell me, oh, Johnny did this and did that. And I'll be like, what did you do? And they're like, it's not about that, but it is.
I love that because it's true. It's true. You're right.
There are participants, Right. So it's like work on yourself. Don't be quick to point at Johnny and say he's the reason of your frustration. No, there's frustration that's there. We got to get to the bottom of why Johnny brings that out, So, those are my thoughts on that.
That's awesome.
We don't want to work. So that's what it is. We don't want to be alone. You know how scary that is? You know how scary it was for me? It was the scariest thing. I had friends. Like I said, my friend is a rapper. My brother is like a celebrity trainer. All of my friends are living their dreams. I can be in different circles. the scariest thing was removing myself from it to get into myself.
Wow.
And because it's a fear of like, you know, when you're keeping up with the Joneses, you're keeping up. If people are out, you're out. If they're taking those vacations, you're taking them. If they go get a relationship, you're trying to get in one. If they're having their kids and having the first birthday, you want one. The thought of saying, I'm going to run the risk of maybe not having any of that to figure this out. It's a scary feeling. But it's also necessary, you know, but it's scary. It was totally horrific, you know, because it's like, now you feel like you're losing people, but you're really not. You're just getting a little bit more of yourself so that you're a little bit more clearer of what it is you really want. You know, like I said, when you're doing things in the masses, including friends, a lot of the times you might not even be doing what you want. You're living up to their fears of your friendship, of your bond. You know, when friends step out of that little circle, it's like, well, who does he think he is? Or who does she think, you know? So it was a fear of, what are they going to be thinking? I'm not even that same girl anymore. I'm not doing those things anymore. Right. Once you're over that, it's the most powerful thing you could possibly do. That's powerful because then it's like, what do you need? Right. You know, what do you really need? You really essentially have all you need. Everything else is a blessing. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You.
Sorry, I will go deep on you.
No, you. I don't even know what to say, because that hit me. That like legit hit me hard, because it is a fear of being alone, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's like life is like that. So even as a fear, like the fear of being the type of daughter I need to be for my mother, or, you know, because we're all different roles for everyone in our life. You know, fear of the sister that I think I need to be for my sister. You know, am I doing that? Where it's almost like you is really essential, you know? And I feel like once you come to a place where you're actually okay with it, you're a much better sister versus the version that you thought you needed to be. You're a much better son versus the version that you thought you needed to be for your mom. That's not what their wish is for you. But we think that, you know, and then we become these people for these people. When if you took a step back and you step back, you might realize, you know what, I don't even like this type of music, or I don't even really like going here, or, you know, you just discover things that you realize I was probably doing this just for the gander. And it felt okay. But I don't want to feel okay. You know, that's just okay. It needs to feel spectacular, you know? Yeah. I need to feel that blood rush. I need to feel like I'm challenging myself, like I'm that kid again, and I get those butterflies when I'm about to do something. I don't need to feel like because I'm an adult and that I'm working, that excitement doesn't get to live in my life. You know, it has to live in my life. Or else then that's the person that I am for the kids. Excitement doesn't live in my life. I'm not going to allow it to live in theirs. That's true. I have to have it to where I feel like this in order for me to go teach them. Wow. Or else I would be doing them a disservice. You know?
Truly. No, truly, yeah. Truly. If you're not willing to push yourself to that edge and discover who you are in your own life, then how can you do that for the others? How can you push, you know, Johnny to finish the exam, or finish the worksheet, or the lab, or whatever, or stand up in front of people in your theater? You know, if you're not willing to do that, even though it makes you uncomfortable as well, if you're not willing to do that for yourself, why would they do that for themselves? If you're not willing to model that.
It's funny you say that, because the kids that are scared, I tell them that story. I'm like, you guys have no idea. Like, I'm not telling you to do this because I'm not doing it. That's why I love being the theater teacher. I literally go into the theater world after work, and then I come the next day and talk to them about it or teach them what I learned. So I'm never asking them to do something I won't do. And then when I see the kids that I'm really applying pressure to, and then I go and the director does it to me, I then do what I want, that reaction of the kid. It's like a learning. It's the weirdest learning process ever, because they're kids. But there was this one little girl, I asked her to sing a cappella this song that she learned in a day. She's maybe like 8 years old, packed auditorium. And I'm like, go sing. And I wanted her to start as soon as she got up there. And then when I watched her do it, and then I went the next day to my director, and he's like, oh, I want you to perform this in front of such and such. The natural me wants to be like, you know, I don't do that, whatever. But then I'm like, I'm like, you can't do that. You just asked you just did that. So you better be her or go home, you know? Yeah.
Wow.
It's like a, you know, feed off of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I love that. I love that you did that. But I love that you're aware enough of yourself to know, okay, I did this here. I better be willing to, if I push someone to do something in this area, I better push myself when that same call comes to me. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I love that. I love that.
Only because I know what fear is like. You know, so it's not a case where I'm coming from a place where I was like, I'm fearless. No, I know what it's like. But then I also know what it feels like once you move past it. Like once you know that you were scared to do it and you did it, it's like, so that's so badass. Like I don't like talking. I don't like talking in front of people, but you're telling me that I sold out a theater and then I actually did it. That
Yeah.
part is that part where anybody that knows me knows I don't like it. You know, so it's that part. It's like, yeah. So, you know, you can be scared of things and do them. Yeah.
How important is vision then? Because I mean, when you do something that makes you feel afraid, like you said, all the things, all your play, all the stuff. I mean, that was pretty much you being in a scared position the whole time. But you had a vision, but you had this idea in your head, and you had this vision as to how this was going to look, how you were going to present, maybe the theater, all this kind of stuff. So how important is vision to life, but I mean, especially to you with the kids?
Um, it's so important. It's so important because I feel like without it, you have nothing to rely on. You know, so even the dance class that I'm doing this coming Saturday with a dance teacher, like we're opening up a dance class on Saturday morning, down to the show, down to even this interview with you, right? These are things that have been thought up throughout the years, whether they were implemented, even at the time I didn't know it was a seed planted. Like the writing class that I took about writing scenes from your life, it wasn't about writing a show. So it's like all these things happen, but they were in alignment with my vision. But without the vision, I would not have been able to see the opportunities to say, you know what, I need that. You know, let me take this along with me on my journey. I would have passed these things by as just things happening, not realizing they're happening for me. You know, so vision to me is important because without it, you may miss the opportunities that are really set for you, that are set up right in your face. You know, like um, with the woman who I did the writing your scenes from your life with, I did that class with her. She happened to be Ben Stiller's acting coach. He was working on a movie, The Life of Walter Smitty.
Oh,
And
wow.
she happened to be his acting coach. And after the class was over, she said, you know what? Let's turn this into a show. If you're willing to meet me in Manhattan and come to my house for me to work with you, I'm willing to work with you. And that's how the show came about. Now, someone else, she would have had that conversation. If I didn't have a vision, I might have said to her, traveling from the South Bronx all the way to Manhattan, like the lower numbers, is a little difficult.
Hmm.
And after work, when I'm stressed, after dealing with the 21 boys and 3 kids, I don't see how I'm going to do that. I live in New Jersey. That means I'm going to have to take a train, but like it's going to take too much travel. Without the vision of seeing the overall picture, I might have not taken that opportunity. I might have said, no, thanks. You know, I don't want to go to her house. You know, I'd rather go here. You know, no.
Right.
The vision allowed me to say, this is an opportunity. This is not, she's a coach flying to California next week to go coach Ben Stiller. And then she got you to be an extra in the movie, although they don't show it. The whole purpose is like, I dressed up to see if I went to the movie theater and everything, but they didn't show it. I know,
Oh.
you know, right? But, you know, that's an opportunity. You know,
Right.
at first, she's just a teacher in a class teaching writing. The only reason now I knew about that other stuff is because now after the class is done, she's like, well, I see a little something. Let's talk. Without vision, I would not have seen that as an opportunity at all. So
Wow.
I feel like without vision, you can kind of lose it. And vision, you don't have to have it from day one either. So it's not a thing like you have to have it from birth, although these things I've thought of over my childhood. It's something that you can even develop as you're going. You know, like
Right.
even if your vision changes, if I'm like, well, you know what, maybe that's not what I see myself doing anymore. This is what I see. Still need to see it just so I can see it through. Without
Right.
the vision, there's no see through. You know,
Right.
at
Right.
that point, it's a dream or a thought. So
Wow.
yeah.
So there is a difference between vision, a dream, and a thought.
Yeah, I think that a thought can happen, even though you can make a thought happen, it can just be it can be a thought. It can be something that appears and then disappears, right?
Mm.
And then you can, like I said, even the same thing with vision, how they're alike is where you can also change your thought. The one thing with a vision is you kind of see that whole, it's not as a dream. So for me, dreams are flashy, right? So when I think of dreaming, I think of like whenever I wake up, I can think of little things that happened in my dream. I've never remembered an entire dream, right? So I only get parts of it. I feel like a vision, you kind of see things through. The things that are playing out right now are things that I thought of all that time, all the way through. I always wanted to act. Did I know I would write a solo show and perform it? No. Was I acting before I taught? Yes. Was I doing music videos before I taught? Absolutely. But did I then think that I would fall in love with the kids so much that I would say, I don't even want to pursue acting? And did I then think that in the middle of me having a miserable time in teaching, that I would then go write and then do the acting? You know what I mean? It's like the vision, I think, is something that doesn't go. It won't go. I purposefully did things and purposefully stopped things, and it didn't matter. It was like, nope, here you go. We're going to put that on your foot again and see what you're going to do with it. So I think that vision is something that, not that the dream doesn't last long, I just don't really remember them a lot. The vision is something I think it just it's like the last. You kind of see you see it a little bit further. You kind of can see the players in the park saying, that way when it's happening, you saw it already.
Right.
So you kind of just walk in it versus maybe a thought changing here or there. A thought is fleeting. Thoughts are fleeting. But a vision, I don't think it fleets. I think it's something that you constantly see and work on. Like my friend, who is the rapper that you spoke about, she was signed at Def Jam. She was one of the first females signed at Def Jam at the age of 16 with one of the highest record deals ever. And she won't stop. So even though she writes for other people and does all these other things, some would say like, well, since you're such a great writer, just be a songwriter. Don't even do songs anymore. But she can't because her vision of herself won't allow it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not just a dream to her anymore. She already did the dream. That dream was being signed at 16. But that vision of who you are, it makes her still go to the studio and write,
That's a great example. That's a great example. I love that. And I think it's so important because like if you look at like really famous, especially like in professional athletes and all that kind of stuff, whenever professional ball players step up to the bat, they see where that ball is going, I mean, I remember Michael Jordan, I still think he's the greatest. But anyways, Michael Jordan, when he stepped up to the line, I mean, he saw the ball going in. Like these people, what we would consider, high performers, they always saw the what their actions were going to be. They always saw what they were doing. And like what you were saying, is because it's who they are. Like they can't not be that. They can't not want to pursue those dreams or that vision. They can't not work towards seeing that vision come true. And because of that, I think that's why you're so successful in the classroom, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably have a vision for what the kids are. You have you see where they're going. You can see the potential in every single child, and you can see, hey, you could be this, you could be this, you could be this, you could be this, or let me help you achieve that through the theater. Let me help you express yourself through my classroom. And that's why you got so many kids, bothering you.
Like, guys, I have to teach a class, guys. How did you get out? Like, how did you get out of your class?
No, I think that's fantastic. I think, and I just want to say thank you for that. I mean, thank you for what you're doing for those kids, because when you're the best that you can be and they're the best that they can be, I win. My kids win. Like I agree with you. We're all in this together. It doesn't matter where you are located. If we're putting that energy out and then getting that energy back in, and constantly pushing that and moving that, we're all going to move together towards a really positive direction. So seriously, thank you so much for all your work. Thank you for everything that you do for those kids, because those are my kids. I've always had an issue with people when they talk about, oh, there's a kid in the hallway. Well, that's not my kid. No, they're all our kids. Like,
Right. Right, right,
he may not be on your roster, but
right, right.
that's still our kid, and
No,
you still gotta, yank him by the ear and be like, what's wrong with you?
right,
Let's take care of this.
right. Well,
So,
I really want to thank you because while I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I'm not even having an understanding of it. And so a person like you, for you to see it and to then call me on it to say, well, let's talk about it because this is what I'm noticing about you. I totally appreciate that too, because then it allows me to take a step back and say, wow, you're doing these things, and somebody is taking notice to it and, keep going because, we don't get the awards or the accolades
right.
that come with what we're doing. It's just like out of your own soul or out of your own heart or whatever. So it's not a big deal. It doesn't come with celebrityism. So the
Well,
fact that you can point that out to me, I appreciate that too.
and let me tell you something that I think is greater that I feel is not even recognized. I feel like there's a lot of cutesy things that teachers get kind of like patted on the head with. They're like, oh, that's so pretty. But people don't really understand. Like the concept of legacy. Like you are literally going to be living in the heart of all your children for the rest of their lives. Like you have made impact on every single child that you come across. And that's not a thing where they're going to be like, oh yeah, I can't remember. No. You have literally changed the course of somebody's life. And that life is going to affect another life. And that life is going to affect another life. Like the concept of legacy. Okay, maybe we don't get to be on, ESPN, or we don't get to be on the TV, and we don't get a bunch of awards. But that idea of leaving a legacy, like people will know who you are way beyond, whenever we're around. Like
Right,
that's so amazing to me. And I think
right,
that speaks to the that whole thing about being present and about the feedback, because I don't feel that people understand how important that is because they're not in the positions to do that kind of work.
hmm,
So like what you were saying, when your realtor friends sell a property, oh, I got a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 commission. Okay, yeah, but no one's gonna remember you in a year from now because they're gonna go
right,
do it with the realtor, and you're still hunting for prospects and blah blah blah.
right,
But at the end of the year, or in 5 years, and maybe this has happened to you already, when you get some kid that you meet on the street and they're like, oh, I have to tell you, you did X, Y, and Z, and thank you because now I can do blah 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 blah, and you've helped me change my life, or you know Miss Freeman, there was this one day when I was feeling so down and I was thinking about doing something horrible, and now I'm not thinking like that anymore. And thank you for that opportunity. I mean, it. I don't. I don't think people understand the value of that because they're not actually doing that work.
right.
Which is why to me it's so important that I do reach out to you, because I need you to know, keep going, keep doing what you're
Thank,
doing, because
thank
we don't
you.
do that. Because we don't do that. Number
Right,
one, you're never gonna get that from your admin. You're never gonna get that from a,
right.
and it's sad. It's sad. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm just pointing it out. We should be doing more of this. We should be
Hmm.
encouraging more. But unfortunately, we live in an age where if I praise you and acknowledge you for what you're doing, instead of other people saying, "Oh, I want to be like her," it's gonna make everybody else be like,
Right, right.
and it
Exactly.
and it shouldn't be that way. It
Right,
shouldn't
right,
be
right,
that
right,
way. It shouldn't be
right,
that way. And it's not about being more like you. It's just about saying, "Hey, there's another way."
right, right.
You know.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So that's why. Yeah, I'm. I got you, girl. I'm
Thank
clapping.
you. I
I'm
appreciate
cheering.
that.
I'm
I
cheering for
appreciate
you.
that.
I'm clapping for you. And again, it's amazing and it's incredible to speak with you. Thank you so much. Okay, so when's the play coming out in September? Like, what's the
Okay, so on the play in September, I think the first date of the play is September 9th, I think the first run, and then it ends November 20th. So I don't have my actual date where they're
That's
gonna
fine.
set me up for Theater Row, but I know it runs from September 9th through November 20th. I literally just mailed off my confirmation this morning. Yay! So,
Yay, that's
so I'm
great.
probably gonna post about it to tell people that that's what I'm doing. But I was also thinking of maybe like doing a little show from the hometown that I grew up in, like in the interim, just to kind of keep my feet wet a little bit. Maybe doing
Yeah.
it in the summer, like maybe of a July month. But the show on Theater Row on 42nd Street will be running from September through November 20th. I probably will have my date in October, and I will better know within a week. Like, I guess once I hear back from them, since I
All right.
accepted.
But definitely, start looking out for that sometime
I
in
will.
August, September, just to let everybody know that's listening or that's watching this. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much. This was an
Thank you.
amazing interview. It was
Thank
awesome
you.
to finally be able to speak with you, and keep going because we
Thank
need
you. I
you.
appreciate
We
that.
need you.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much. I totally appreciate that. It was great talking to you.
Wasn't that incredible? Isn't Alaina just magnificent? Isn't she just amazing? Not only that, but I love so much that she is so passionate about everything that she does. She doesn't just do things just to do them. She puts her heart, her soul into everything that she does, whether it's her play, whether it's her kids, whatever it is that she's doing, she's always on a path to self-discovery. She's always challenging herself. She's always pushing herself. She is a queen bee by every sense of the word. So thank you so much, Alaina. Thank you for everything that you do, not only for us, but for your kids, because the universe sees what you're doing and we are all grateful for it. So thank you so much. And thank you for checking out the podcast, for watching the YouTube video. Make sure to subscribe, hit that subscribe button, whether it's on the Spotify, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get the latest updates. Thank you so much for joining me here, and I will catch you next time. Hey, want to create your own self-driven classroom? Check out sealitwithasmileschool.org. There you'll find out all the information you need to know about my online course, The Self-Driven Classroom, The Queen Bee. Transform yourself, transform your classroom, transform your life.